Question. According to the meaning of
المرء مع من أحبه.
everyone will be together with those he loves. In paradise, friend will be together with friend. Therefore, love for Allah's sake, kindled in a simple nomad during 1 minute's conversation with the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, means he has to be with the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, in paradise. But since Allah's noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, receives limitless effulgence, how can it be united with that of a simple nomad? The answer. We shall allude to this elevated truth with a comparison. For example, a magnificent personage set up a vast banquet and finely adorned spectacle in a splendid garden. He prepared it in such a way that it included all the delicious foods that the sense of taste can experience, and all the fine things that please the sense of sight, and all the wonders that amuse the faculty of imagination, and so on. He included in it everything that would gratify and give pleasure to the external and inner senses. Now there were two friends, and they went together to the banquet and sat down at a table in a pavilion. But the sense of taste of one of them was very limited, so he received only minor pleasure. His eyes could see only a little. He had no sense of smell, and he could not understand the wondrous arts nor comprehend the marvels. He could only benefit from and take pleasure in 1,000th or even a millionth of that beautiful place, to the extent of his capacity. The other man, however, had developed his outer and inner senses, his mind, heart, emotions, and subtle faculties so perfectly and to such a degree that although he was next to his friend, he could perceive and experience all the subtleties and beauties and marvels and fine things in the exhibition, and receive their different pleasures. Since this confused, sorrowful and narrow world is thus, and although the greatest and least are together, the difference between them is as great as from the ground to the Pleiades. Surely in paradise, the realm of bliss and eternity, while friend is together with friend, each will receive his share from the table of the most merciful and compassionate one in accordance with his capacity and to the extent of his abilities. Even if the paradises in which they are found are different, it will not be an obstacle to their being together, for although the 8 levels of paradise are one above the other, the roof of all of them is the sublime throne. If they are walled circles round a conical mountain, one within the other, and one above the other from its foot to the summit, the circles are one over the other and look to one another, but do not prevent each other seeing the sun. There are also various narrations of hadiths indicating the paradises are in a manner close to this. Question. It is said in hadiths, although the Huris are clothed in 70 garments, the marrow of their leg bones may be seen. What does this mean? What sort of meaning can it have? What sort of beauty is this? The answer. Its meaning is truly beautiful, and its beauty is most lovely. It is like this. In this world, which is ugly, inanimate, lifeless, and for the most part just a husk, beauty and loveliness only appear beautiful to the eye, and so long as familiarity is not an obstacle, that is sufficient. Whereas in paradise, which is beautiful, living, brilliant, and entirely the essence, without the husk, and the kernel without the shell, like the eye, all man's senses and subtle faculties will want to receive their different pleasures and various delights from the Huris, the gentle sex, and from women of this world, who will be like Huris and even more beautiful. That is to say, the hadith indicates that from the beauty of their top garments to the marrow of their bones, each layer will be the means of pleasure to a sense and subtle faculty. Yes, by saying the Houris wear 70 garments and the marrow of their leg bones can be seen, the hadith points out that however many senses, feelings, powers and faculties man has, which are enamoured of beauty, worship pleasure, are captivated by ornament, and yearn for loveliness, the Houris comprise all of them, every sort of adornment and exquisite loveliness, physical and spiritual and immaterial, which will please and satisfy all of them, and gratify them and make them all happy. That is to say, just as the Houris are clothed in 70 of the varieties of the adornment of paradise, and not one sort, none of which conceal the others, so they display beauty and the loveliness perhaps 70 times greater than their own bodies and beings, all of different sorts and varieties. They demonstrate the truth indicated by the verse.
وَفِيهَا مَا تَشْتَهِيهِ الْأَنفُسُ وَتَلَذُّ الْأَعْيُنُ.
There will be there all that the souls could desire, and all that the eyes could delight in. Yes, indeed. There is also a hadith which states that since in paradise there are no unnecessary, extraneous waste matters, the people of paradise will not excrete waste after eating and drinking. Since in this lowly world trees, the most ordinary of living beings, do not excrete despite taking in much nourishment, why should the people of paradise, who are the highest class of life? Question. It says in hadiths, some of the people of paradise are given lands as extensive as the world, and thousands of palaces and hundreds of thousands of Houris are bestowed on them. What need has a single person of all these things? Why should it be necessary? How can this be, and what does it mean? The answer. If man was only a lifeless being, or was only a vegetable creature consisting of a stomach, or consisted only of a limited, heavy, temporary, simple corporeality or animal body, he could not own many palaces and Houris, or be fit for them. But man is such a comprehensive miracle of power that even in this transitory world and brief life, if he is given the rule of all the world with its wealth and pleasures, his ambition is not satisfied. In respect of the need of some of his subtle faculties, which do not develop here, it is therefore reasonable, right and true, that a person possessing an infinite capacity, who knocks on the door of an infinite mercy with the hand of infinite desires and the tongue of infinite needs, will receive in an eternal abode of bliss the divine bounties described in hadiths. We shall observe this elevated truth through the telescope of a comparison. It is as follows. Although, like this valley garden, all these gardens and vineyards of Bala have different owners, all the birds and sparrows and honeybees in Bala, who have only a handful of grain for food, may say, all the gardens and orchards of Bala are my pleasant resorts where I fly around and enjoy myself. Each may take possession of Bala and include it in its property. Others, sharing it does not invalidate his ownership. Similarly, a man who is a true human being may say, my Creator made this world a house for me. The sun is my lamp, and the stars my electric lights. The face of the earth is my resting place, spread with flowered carpets. And he offers thanks to Allah. The other creatures sharing it does not negate his statement. On the contrary, the creatures adorn his house like decorations. And so, if in this narrow fleeting world, by virtue of his humanity, man, and even a bird, claims a sort of power of disposal over such a vast sphere and receives such a vast bounty, how can it be deemed unlikely that he is given ownership of a property stretching over a 500-year distance in a broad and eternal abode of bliss? Moreover, just as in this dense and dark, narrow world, the sun is present in the same way at the same time in numerous mirrors, so too, as is proved in the 16th word, A luminous being may be present in many places in the same way at the same time. For example, Gabriel, peace be upon him, being on 1,000 stars simultaneously, and at the divine throne, and in the presence of the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and in the divine presence, and the prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, meeting with most of the righteous of his community at the resurrection of the dead, at the same time, and appearing in this world in innumerable places simultaneously, and a strange group of the saints, known as Abdal, appearing at the same time in many places, and ordinary people sometimes carrying out as much as a year's work in 1 minute in a dream and observing this, and everyone being in contact with and concerned with numerous places at the same time, in their hearts, spirits, and imaginations. All these are well known and may be witnessed. Most certainly in paradise, therefore, which is luminous, unrestricted, broad, and eternal. The people of paradise, whose bodies have the strength and lightness of the spirit, and the swiftness of imagination, being in hundreds of thousands of places at the same time, and conversing with hundreds of thousands of huris, and receiving pleasure in hundreds of thousands of ways, is fitting for that eternal paradise, that infinite mercy. And as told by the bringer of sure news, peace and blessings be upon him, is reality and the truth. Nevertheless, these vast truths cannot be weighed on the scales of our tiny minds. This tiny mind cannot perceive the true meanings, for this scale cannot bear such a weight.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا اللهم صل على حبيبك الذي فتح أبواب الجنة بحبيبيته وبصلاته وأيدته أمته على فتحها بصلواتهم عليه الصلاة والسلام اللهم أدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار بشفاعة حبيبك المختار آمين.
Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. O our Sustainer, do not call us to task if we forget or fall into error. O Allah, grant blessings to your beloved, who, by being your beloved and through his prayers, flung open the doors of paradise, and because of the benedictions for him of its members, you confirmed its opening for his community, and bless him and grant him peace. O Allah, appoint us to paradise among the righteous through the intercession of your beloved, the Chosen One. Amen. A short addendum to the word on paradise, on hell. As is proved in the 2nd and 8th words, belief bears the seed of a sort of paradise, while unbelief conceals the seed of a sort of hell. And just as unbelief is a seed of hell, so hell is one of its fruits. And just as unbelief is the reason for being sent to hell, so it is the cause of hell's existence and creation. For if an insignificant ruler of small dignity, small pride and small majesty is told impudently by some unmannerly person, "You may not punish me, and you cannot," if there is no prison in that place, the ruler will certainly have one built for him, and will throw him into it. However, by denying hell, the unbeliever is giving the lie to one of infinite dignity, pride and glory, who is sublimely and infinitely powerful, and is accusing him of impotence, lying and powerlessness. He is insulting his dignity and offending his pride terribly. He is rebelliously causing affront to his glory. If to suppose the impossible, there was no reason for hell's existence, it would certainly be created for unbelief, which comprises denial and ascribing impotence to this degree, and such an unbeliever would certainly be cast into it.
رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ.
Our Sustainer, you did not create that in vain. Glory be unto you. Save us from the penalty of the fire. The 29th word. This, the 29th word, is about the immortality of man's spirit, the angels, and the resurrection.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم قل الروح من أمر ربي.
In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate. Therein came down the angels, and the Spirit by the permission of their Sustainer. Say, the Spirit comes by command of my Sustainer. This treatise consists of an introduction and two main aims. Introduction. It may be said that the existence of the angels and spirit beings is as definite as that of human beings and animals. Indeed, as is explained in the first step of the 15th word, reality undoubtedly requires, and wisdom certainly demands, that like the earth, the heavens have inhabitants, and that its inhabitants are intelligent and suitable for the heavens. In the tongue of the Sharia, those inhabitants, of which there are numerous kinds, are called angels and spirit beings. Reality requires it to be thus, for despite the earth's smallness and insignificance in relation to the heavens, its being filled with intelligent beings and from time to time being emptied and then refilled with new ones suggests, indeed states clearly, that the heavens too, with their majestic constellations, like adorned palaces, are filled with animate creatures, the light of existence, and conscious and intelligent creatures, the light of animate creatures, like man and the jinn. Those creatures are spectators of the palace of the world, and ponderers over the book of the universe, and heralds of this realm of dominicality. With their universal and comprehensive worship, they represent the glorification of the large and universal beings in the universe. The nature of the universe surely points to their existence, for since it is embellished and decked out with uncountable numbers of finely adorned works of art and meaningful decorations and wise embroideries, it self-evidently requires the gazes of thoughtful admirers and wondering, appreciative lovers. It demands their existence. Yes, just as beauty requires a lover, so is food given to the hungry. Thus the sustenance of spirits and nourishment of hearts in this boundless beauty of art looks to the angels and spirit beings. It points to them. For while this infinite adornment requires an infinite duty of contemplation and worship, man and the jinn can perform only a millionth of that infinite duty, that wise supervision, that extensive worship. This means that boundless varieties of angels and spirit beings are necessary to perform those duties, and to fill and inhabit the mighty mosque of the world with their ranks. Indeed, a species of the spirit beings and angels is present in every aspect, in every sphere of the universe, each charged with a duty of worship. It may be said, according to both the narrations of Hadith and the wisdom in the order of the world, that from lifeless planets and stars to raindrops, all are ships or vehicles for a kind of angel. The angels mount these vehicles with divine permission and travel observing the manifest world. They represent their praise and glorification. It also may be said that certain sorts of living bodies act as aeroplanes for different kinds of spirits. From the birds of paradise, called the green birds in a hadith which says, "The spirits of the people of paradise enter into green birds in the intermediate realm and travel around paradise in them. To flies, each is a vehicle for a sort of spirit. The spirits enter into them at divine command, and through the faculties and senses of those living bodies, like the eyes and ears, observe the miracles of creation in the corporal world. They perform the particular glorification of each. Just as reality necessitates it to be thus, so does wisdom, for with an intense activity, the all-wise Maker continuously creates subtle life and luminous, intelligent beings from dense earth, which has little connection with spirit, and from turbid water, which has small relation with the light of life. He surely then creates certain sorts of intelligent beings from the seas of light, and even from the oceans of darkness, from the air, electricity, and other subtle matter suitable for spirit and appropriate for life. And surely these creatures are exceedingly numerous.